So, as many fans last night watched the Kansas City Chiefs get absolutely manhandled by the Detroit Lions, we also got some other news. Joe Burrow finally got his contract. Yes, that contract is a 5-year, $275 million contract. And while most of Houday Nation was celebrating, rejoicing, we have our quarterback here for the next 7 years, there were some fans who asked the question, well, what does this mean for T. Higgins? Now, of course, recently we saw that Jamar Chase came out and talked about his contract situation. Keep in mind, Jamar Chase is up for new contract, eligible starting next year. Now, of course, that contract is going to be a lot of money, right? You can't really get around that. At the end of the day, his comments was very clear. He's excited to see Jay Jettis or Justin Jefferson set the market for him so he can get a big deal. Now, right now, the wide receiver market is in a very interesting place. The most expensive, or I would say, the guy who makes the most money, would be, of course, Tyreek Hill. He's currently sitting at an average of $30 million a year. And while that sounds like a lot, you got to keep in mind that we're about to see a bigger contract than that. Yes, Justin Jefferson for the Minnesota Vikings, the same Vikings that currently don't really have anybody on the roster that's costing a lot of money, they're going to be paying him pretty much everything. My guess and my assumption is he'll probably see a contract in the ballpark range of around $32 million a year. Now, of course, that will put Jamar Chase, when he's eligible next year, at a contract of probably around $34 million a year, right above Jay Jettis. Now, what does that mean for us? Because, of course, if Jamar Chase is very vocal about that, then clearly he's going to make sure he gets his money. Most likely, he's not going to take a team-friendly deal. Now, he could backload his contract, work his money around to help us in the short term, but at the end of the day, Jamar is going to get the money he deserves. But then the odd man out becomes T. We already know Tyler Boyd most likely will leave this roster. We already know DJ Reader, Cheeto, couple of guys that we absolutely love potentially might leave. But is T going to stay? That's a question that everyone has on their mind right now. And the real way to put this is there's a couple different options, right? At the end of the day, if T. Higgins did hit the open market, he would be making in the ballpark range of around $30 a year. Maybe a little less than that. It really depends on who else is available at the said time. But let's be clear, T. Higgins is a top 10 receiver. And he is a wide receiver 1. And he's put up multi-thousand-yard seasons for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's a very productive player for this team. And of course, he doesn't have much of an injury history. So he shows very clear as day he can go out there and perform at a top level without any problems at all. So what does that mean for him then? Well, this is kind of the dilemma we're in. We don't know the exact details of Joe Burrow's contract. We're going to find them out today. But what we do know is it's a $275 million deal, $219 million guaranteed, and it does not start until after his contract currently runs out. This means he will not be impacting us for the next 2 seasons toward our cap. The next 2 years, his cap hit will be $11.6 million for this year, and next year, $29 million, which is a fully guaranteed 5th-year option. We did pick up the 5th-year option, so they're going to most likely keep him on that. After that, there is a different path that can be taken. But in the short term, this could be actually very beneficial to a player like T. Higgins. Of course, we're going to have to work with him and kind of work around his contract. But from using void years and signing bonuses, you can actually push money toward the future in a lot of great ways. Let me explain. So for example, let's say we take T. Higgins and we give him a $100 million contract. That would be most likely a 5-year, $100 million contract. Now, when you literally look at it at, in grand scheme, you say, okay, well, that's a 5-year, $20 million a year, $100 million, and that's it. But not really. Because in that $100 million, of course, part of that's going to be a signing bonus. Might be $20 million, might be $30 million. So that's the first part. Then obviously, you have the guarantees. Most receivers want a fully guaranteed contract. Let's be honest, most NFL players want a fully guaranteed contract. And it does make sense to want a fully guaranteed contract because that makes sure you're protected, and again, you're getting all the money that you're signing for. But here's why the signing bonus is actually very important. Let's say we do fully guarantee T. Higgins the $100 million contract. Well, through void years, you can push that signing bonus very, very, very far in the future. We actually saw the same kind of concept with Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson's contract, where with Jalen Hurts' contract, they're pushing $97 million toward voidable years in the future. Now, what's a voidable year? Why are they important? Well, pretty much a voidable year is almost a fake year. In quotes, I would say. The reason why it's a fake year is because it is just there for the single purpose of pushing the salary cap in the future. When a void year is hit, that all the money in the void year is owed to the player. And it's almost like the player has gotten cut. So, for example, let's say you sign him to a $100 million contract. You're going to put 5 voidable years on there and sign him to a $30 million signing bonus. That means he is at signing $100 million fully guaranteed. $70 million is toward his salary, and $30 million is toward his signing bonus. That means the second he signs, he gets that $30 million check. It's in his account. Everything is good. Well, how you would structure this contract most likely is one of two ways. First off, you could backload this contract. So you could make it $10 million year 1, $10 million year 2. And then the other 3 years, you would have to find out around 23, 24 year for the next 3 years to get up to that $100 million. Now, some teams, like Deshaun Watson, for example, with the Browns, they backloaded his contract, so he's going to be making $75 million for the next 2 years. Now, that is not the ideal situation, right? Because then you get to a point where you're like, okay, well, now we're really paying this guy a lot of money. So that's when void years kind of kick in effect. So a void year, what you can do there is you can say, okay, well, this year, instead, let's go back to the theory of him making $20 million a year, right? You can say, okay, I don't really want him to make $20 million a year, because that's going to hurt my salary cap, and I can't afford that. So what they do is they take that $20 million, take away, let's say, 10 of that, half the money, put that in void year 1. Now, what that means is, once his contract runs out, and that year 1 is there, void year 1, the second that kicks in, meaning the second his contract ends, he's owed that $10 million for that year 1. And if he gets a new contract, it automatically adds on to that it adds on to that new contract. So let's say he gets a new contract, he's making $20 a year, he's automatically making $30 a year. And you can do this for the whole entire contract if you want to. So for example, you can add up to, I believe it's 7 or 8 void years to every contract. Jalen Hurts has 6 void years on his contract. So how you can structure this is 10 the first year, right? Void year, 10 million. Second year, 10 million. Second void year, 10 million. Third year, 10 million. Third void year, 10 million. And again, you can keep him at $10 million salary cap hit, but keep in mind, again, you're gonna have to pay him the $10 million when his contract ends. And it does not matter if he's on your team or not. Even if he leaves and goes somewhere else, the second that void year kicks in, he automatically, it's like he becomes a free agent. He's going to get owed all of that money, which again is why voidable years are so not dangerous but scary, because yeah, if the player doesn't work out or once the player is done, they're gonna still be owed that money. You can't get rid of the void years money wise, but what you can do is push it toward the future. Now we know one thing about football. The salary cap always goes up. And it's going to go up more and more every single year. As more TV deals comes in the league, the salary cap just skyrockets more and more. So that's why you can really manipulate this situation by using void years and pushing money toward the future. Because 10 million today is not 10 million in 5 years, right? So that's kind of the system that you can go about things. Now again, this really does come down to how Joe Burrow's contract is structured, but the fact that the next 2 years, he's not going to be counting against our salary cap that much, only 10-year, $11 million this year and 30 next year, you could really just take T. Higgins' contract, give him a $100 million contract, give him $20 million for the first 2 years, and then the last 3, because then obviously, yes, Joe Burrow's contract kicks in, but again, keep in mind, it's very possible his contract becomes backloaded, and if his contract is backloaded, then you really don't have the problem, right? Because all you have to do then is just go in and say, okay, well, then we could give the T. Higgins rest of his 3 years, we can put that right there, and then if we backload Joe, then that 3 years won't really hurt us that much, right? Or again, you could use voidable years. You could say the last 3, because now Joe's getting his new contract, we're going to take your contract, T, and these voidable years gets pushed toward the future. And again, keep in mind, this is not hurting the player at all, guys. This is simply helping out the team to keep great players. It's like making up fake things just to keep your stars. So again, to those who are asking, can we keep T. Higgins? 100% yes, we can keep him. But again, keep in mind, it's not going to be easy because we're going to have to work out. We just got Joe signed, right? Again, we're going to find out more details about his contract sometime today. But Jamar Chase is right around the corner. And he's going to want 33, 34 a year. That's a lot of money. And yes, we can do the same similar concept with Jamar Chase. But just keep in mind one thing. Voidable years add up very quickly and they cost a lot of money. So if you do it with one player, okay, it's alright. You can kind of push that money down the road. But when you do it with 2, 3, and the amount of money that this is going to cost in the end, you can see where things start to go bad. Now, I will say overall wise, I'm excited to see how this contract gets done for T, because again, I fully believe he will be re-signed by the Cincinnati Bengals and he will be here for the foreseeable future. The last thing I'll leave you off on is just keep in mind, Joe Burrow did say that he's very confident he can keep all his pieces. So there's no reason why this should not be done. Now, of course, the last question is, should we sign him? Because that's a lot of money. And that's a lot of money to invest and lock up into just 2 receivers. Can Joe win without T? Absolutely. Could we franchise tag T. Higgins? Well, yes, we could. If we franchise tag him this year, it would be $25 million. If we franchise tag him the year after that, which would be 150% higher than that, it would be $35 million. And we could franchise tag him a 3rd year, and that would be $50 million. So, well, yes, we could franchise tag him, and that, of course, keep in mind, is all guaranteed money. I think it's in our best interest here to just sign him. Just figure out a contract, figure out a deal, and while, yes, it's going to be difficult, not easy at all, and yes, it's going to put a lot of money toward the future, you got to keep your playmakers, and in my opinion, I think he's worth it. It might cost a lot, and we're investing a lot into one position group, but just keep in mind that most teams, they pay a lot of money toward great pass rushers. Nick Bosa's just got a crazy contract, right? Great cornerbacks, great safeties, great linebackers, etc. We were very lucky and blessed this offseason to be able to sign Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson back for very cheap and affordable deals. We were also able to get Trey Hendrickson on a contract extension for a very cheap and affordable price. So, all those things being considered, and of course the pay cut by Joe Mixon, it all works out in the end. And that money trickles down to keeping T. Higgins. So, to the answer to the question, I'm going to say yes. But, we'll see what ends up happening. I'll see you guys in the next one.